They came for me at first light. 3 black SUVs crept up the gravel drive, their tires crunching like an army of corporate roaches. I was sitting on my porch, boots crossed on the railing, sipping strong black coffee while watching the fog roll off my lake. That's when the so-called HOA security team climbed out, strutting around like they were about to storm a cartel hideout. Only problem is, this isn't some gated suburb. This is my ranch. My land. I live deep in the Tennessee hills, surrounded by 50 acres of pine woods, winding creeks, and the kind of silence you only get when every tree and rock around you is yours. My grandfather built this lakefront ranch with his bare hands, and I've kept it standing proud. But for the past year, I've been locked in a ridiculous feud with the HOA from that gaudy McMansion subdivision just down the road. Their boundary touches the far corner of my woods, and ever since, they've tried pushing their rules onto me. It started small letters, snide notices about unauthorized structures, and how my dock ruined their view. Then came fines I never paid, threats I tossed in the trash. I figured they'd eventually give up. Instead, they escalated. So here they were, marching up my driveway in combat boots, mirrored shades, radios clipped on like they were deploying overseas. One even carried a clipboard. I stayed seated, let them speak first. Sir, we're here to enforce HOA compliance protocols. You're in violation. I laughed right in their faces. You're 6 miles outside your jurisdiction, boys. We have the authority to inspect. That's when I stood up. 6'3", built like a wall, former Army Ranger. I told them once, clear as day, leave my land. They didn't. They tried heading toward my boathouse. When one of them grabbed my arm and said I was detained, instinct took over. I spun him, drove a knee into his thigh, and swept him hard to the ground. He hit like a sack of bricks. Another reached for something on his belt. Pepper spray maybe. But I caught his wrist, bent it back, and dropped him with an elbow to the ribs. The last guy bolted for the SUV. I let him go. The other 2 were crawling, moaning, one clutching a leg that looked broken. Clipboard boy still tried to sound tough through gritted teeth. You assaulted us. We'll press charges. I stared him down. No. You trespassed. You laid hands on me. What I did was self-defense. And the sheriff here knows me a lot better than he knows you. That shut them up. They dragged themselves back into their vehicle, groaning, radios crackling, bumper bent, one tire hissing flat. I might have scattered some caltrops by the gate the night before, just in case. When the dust settled, I called Sheriff Danner. He's been by the ranch plenty of times, mostly for coffee and jerky. Straight shooter. I told him, HOA goons tried to detain me, put 2 of them in the dirt. Expect a call. He sighed. You serious? As a heart attack. No lecture, no surprise. All right, don't talk to anyone else. If they file, I'll take care of it. Between you and me, they crossed a line. See, that's what burned me up. This wasn't their first poke. Just the first time they came dressed like knockoff soldiers with fake badges. Last month, they threatened to sue over the shoreline. Month before that, demanded access to my road for erosion checks. I told them they could check a cactus. What they don't get is I don't live in their bubble. I don't answer to lawn committees or clipboard warriors. My family's land has stood longer than their plastic houses will ever last. But now they'd crossed the line. Sent men to intimidate me. That wasn't just pestering, that was war. And I wasn't about to sit around waiting. I had a plan. A big one. They wanted a fight, they'd get a crash course in country justice. And next time, I wouldn't be pulling punches. Thing is, bullies are like possums. Play dead for a bit, wait until you look away. Then they're right back in your feed sacks. That's exactly what the HOA did. For about a week, it went quiet. No SUVs, no letters, no fake citations. I knew better than to think they quit. Sure enough, one of my neighbors called late one evening. Said she spotted a couple men sneaking around near the back of my lake. Flashlights, clipboards, cameras. They were casing my land. I didn't get mad. I got creative. That side of my ranch dips into thick woods along the lake. Perfect cover. A place you can hide trail cams or a few surprises. So, under a sky buzzing with frogs and wind rustling through the pines, I went to work. First thing I did was rewire the floodlights near the boathouse, hooking them up to a hidden motion sensor. Anybody creeping around at night would get lit up like a deer caught on opening morning. Next, I laid down a little trap. A strip of old scrap fencing half buried under leaves, bent just enough to trip anyone who wasn't paying attention. For the finishing touch, I tucked a Bluetooth speaker under the deck, programmed to blast the sound of an angry bull I'd recorded from a buddy's cattle farm. 2 nights later, the HOA sent in their next inspection team. 2 guys in khakis and vests sneaking through the dark with flashlights and notebooks. They didn't even know they were on camera when suddenly, bam, the floodlights snapped on. The bull roars blasted across the lake, and one of them screamed like a kid at a haunted hayride. The other tripped straight over my buried fencing, flipped forward, and landed half in the water, thrashing and swearing. I watched the whole thing live from my phone, grinning ear to ear. The best part? They didn't call the cops, didn't file anything. They just limped off drenched and humiliated, dragging their pride behind them. The next morning, I uploaded the trail cam footage with the title, HOA inspectors find out what happens when you trespass on a ranch. 3 hours later, it was viral. Locals ate it up. Even Sheriff Danner called me, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. But the HOA didn't find it funny. That video was the final straw. They dropped the scare tactics and brought out the lawyers. One afternoon, a guy in a tailored suit rolled up to my gate. Brett something, didn't matter. Shiny shoes, smug grin, carrying a fat envelope like it was the hammer of God. I met him halfway down the gravel drive, axe slung over my shoulder. Not threatening, just a reminder of where he was standing. "You've been served," he said, sticking the papers out. I skimmed through. Trespassing, assault, emotional distress, property damage. "You boys sure get creative when you're mad," I told him. "You'll hear from us in court," he sneered. I just smiled. "Oh, I'm counting on it." What they didn't know was that I'd already prepared for this months back. My cousin's a top-tier attorney out of Nashville, and when I'd explained everything to him, he just grinned and said 6 words. "These clowns are going to hang themselves." Court day came, and the HOA showed up in full force, smug as ever, ready to bury me in paperwork. But then my cousin walked in, arms full of documents, timelines, and, best of all, video evidence. The judge, a local farmer's son who grew up not far from my land, watched that trail cam footage twice, even asked to replay the part where one inspector face-planted into the lake. The whole courtroom laughed, except the HOA. Then my cousin laid it all out. The trespassing, the threatening letters, the phony detainment on my property, the verified county maps proving where the lines really were. Their whole case collapsed like a rotten fence post. The judge dismissed their claims with prejudice, meaning they couldn't refile. Then, to top it off, he fined the HOA for harassment, unlawful trespass, and even the scratch damage they left on my boathouse siding. The HOA president turned red as a beet, and Brett slunk out looking like a possum that just lost to a rooster. It was done. The next morning, I posted one last video, a slow sunrise sweep across my lake with a caption. "To all HOA folks who think they own the world, stay off my land. Consider this your warning. Now the road is quiet. The dock is peaceful. The only tracks on my land are mine. Still, I keep a few caltrips by the gate, just in case. Because when the system falls short, a rancher delivers justice." So if you like this little standoff, hit that like button, drop a comment, and tell me, have you ever stood your ground against bullies like this? And don't forget to subscribe for more no-nonsense country justice stories. This was only the beginning.